how have you kind of navigated that learning as you've gone through? Have you sourced external help, or have you literally just hit the ground running and go, I'll just figure it all out?
Uh, I am a very slow learner, so I like to fail at something many, many times before I learn my lesson. Um, but yeah, having Megan and I working together, it's been a really big asset because she thinks completely differently than I do. When we were, earlier in our marriage, one of the things that we loved to do was actually put together puzzles together. And she was really good at taking these individual pieces and matching them up perfectly and going, oh, I can just look at a random pile and I can grab two pieces and they fit. My brain is not wired for that. I cannot look at that level of detail. Once she would get three or four together, I could spatially place that out on the mat and go, this goes here because of all these other things. So this big picture, small picture stuff that we're able to talk a lot about has really been beneficial to us. And yes, seeking out help and getting other questions, working with local networking events or local networking opportunities for just generic small businesses has been really important to us as we've tried to learn the business of doing dog walks. And that's been the big thing that we've had to focus on.
Oh, I'm so glad you've touched upon that, because obviously the whole purpose of our podcast is the business side of running a dog business. And
Yeah.
I always find it really fascinating to see how people are navigating that business world, because it can feel quite alien, can't it? And I can imagine if your background was all science based, which is incredible, by the way, like to flip from that to this and then do business, it's completely alien, because I think, well, my understanding is when I'm trying to do the science bit, so I'm doing my level 6 animal behavior degree at the moment, and there's some modules that are a bit sciencey and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. My brain doesn't compute it. But when I'm looking at the business side of everything, I can see it all. So how has your experience been of navigating this business world then?
There's a lot tied up into that, right? Like there's just the identifying ourselves as business owners, right? When you walk into that networking event and it's like, oh, there's a fancy banker. Oh, look, there's a fancy doctor. Oh, look, there's a fancy lawyer. There's people with like these real businesses and these quote unquote real jobby jobs. And then I'm going, well, I walk dogs, right? So there's this, little bit of imposter syndrome coming into this, going, feeling like I'm not worthy to be here, everybody. Hello. But what we quickly learned is that the more we share and talk about what we do, the more they're jealous of what we get to do every single day. So that's been huge of just like talking to people and getting out there to share about our experiences and tell them what we do. Then there's the language barrier because we don't have formal training in business, right? We don't have formal training in management. And so I may use a word or say a phrase that has a technical definition to it, right? That actually has a foundation to it that I might not be wholly familiar with. And so trying to talk with people about this has been really, really interesting. I gave a presentation one time, and at the end, the guy was like, that you're just do nothing but route management and planning. And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I would never have put those technical words to it. So as we've been able to learn these words and go out and get more education, it helps with those conversations so that the next time I give a presentation to a businessy kind of people, I can use terms and buzzwords that they're more familiar with. And so they can actually start seeing how our business operates. It helps that communication and you get a lot better feedback as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very true. You
Yeah.
struggled a bit, didn't you, to
I
start
did.
with?
I was just about to say, actually, the language is a bit jargony, isn't it, when you come
Yeah.
into the business world? But equally, I think it's something to think about for our clients when we're using, like as dog trainers, we use terminology that they may not understand. And so, you just get used to what you get used to, don't you? So it's always having that crossover of going, yeah, that's a bit alien to me. Now I'm really sure about it. And then I start using that terminology and my clients are now lost on it. So it's an interesting transition that I've found. Something I wanted to ask you about actually is your partnership with your wife. So you do find in this industry, it's quite common actually, in the UK definitely, for husbands and wives to team up. And you did say that it sounds like there was some strengths and weaknesses that like really complement each other. So obviously Joe and I are partners in this business and also our dog training business, and we have found it challenging but also again really complementary. Like we've both got skills where we understand where our skills lie. We are just kind of accept the fact that you do that bit because you're better at that and I'll do this. Is that what works well with you guys then?
Yeah, it takes two different things there. It takes humility and it takes trust, doesn't it? Right. I have to be able to say, I'm really terrible at this, right? Just like you said, Vicky, like I'm really bad at it. I'm genuinely should not be doing this kind of work. But then on the flip side, I have to trust that Megan is going to do the best that she can for the best interest of our business and our relationship as well. And not having those thoughts in the back of your head going, well, but what if she messes up, right? Or Megan going, what if Colin didn't do that right? It really takes a very high level of trust to go, I'm bad at this, but you're really good at this. And then I need to take my hands off. I need to be done working on this so that you can take it over. And it really helps your partner flourish. And whether you are in a relationship with somebody or you're just bringing on a business partner to help you run something, those two aspects of working with anybody at that level of detail and at that stress level too is exceptionally important to be able to just say, I'm bad at this. I know you can do this and I trust you to take this on. And that was a little difficult for Megan and I in the very beginning because we were both so passionate about our business. We were both so passionate about everything. You know, we'd sit down and we'd write on a piece of paper and say, what are our top 10 priorities? And she and I couldn't agree on what were the top 10 because we all thought they were number one, right? So that all of a sudden we're going, well, they can't all be number one, and your number one may be different than my number one, but also how does that align with our strengths and weaknesses? So your number one may be something that you're really good at. My number one may be something that I'm terrible at, but I think it's really important. And so I still need to go, this is valuable enough to me to hand off to somebody to then let them run with it because I trust them enough. And being able to talk about that, but and having those boundaries, that's something that we've still work on, right? The dinner table is really attractive to sit down and have a business meeting about, right? And going, well, I'm exhausted, but I have nothing else to talk about. So can we talk about those marketing initiatives, or how are those Google ads going off for you? Or, what's happening on Facebook? To really say, no, I need to have that business time and I need to have that family time or just the us time where we don't talk about this, because then it does become all consuming, and know where those boundaries are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and boundaries is a hard thing, isn't it? It's even like me and my husband. We so he has his own business, and I obviously have this business, and we find we don't get to spend much time together because he's off doing his thing, I'm off doing my thing. We've got a 3 and a 4-year-old at home, so when we're at home, it's like, right, it's just all hands on deck to just keep the little people alive and moving. And then the sitting down bit for dinner is, oh, actually, we do end up talking about our work, but I think it's in a different way. It feels like it falls under that category of a bit more, it's a loud conversation because we're not that partnership. But then knowing, arguably, I suppose it's like when you and I go out for dinner and stuff. Like we did it the weekend, actually. We went out and we did a whole day of like strategizing and actual work. And then we was like, right, 4 o'clock comes, it's like down tools, and now it's the wine is out. And I suppose it still creeps in a little bit, doesn't it, the conversation? But I think when you love it and you're passionate about it and it's exciting, then it's okay. But there is an element of boundary.